We consented once,
I
so
was
You
gonna
already
say, we don't have to
consented.
consent again.
Oh no, you'd already consented once. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We are not live tonight. We are actually on a replay because this weekend's the 4th of July. So me and some of the players got together a little ahead of time. And instead of having an actual campaign or a one-shot session, what we decided to do was give Remus and Howard a chance to pull back the veil and ask questions to the DM, propose some open questions to each other possibly, and share and divulge what they wish to. But we're going to look into some fun, maybe go into some backstory for the characters, throw them some interesting questions on their own decision choices and what has influenced it along the way. Yes, I have talked to all of the players separately, behind the scenes, off air, individually. So I know a bit of where they are and where they're coming from and what has influenced their decisions to be where we're at. But we want to kind of peel back that veil for you guys. You guys are so awesome watching us each week over on our Twitch at podcasters_. We also go live on our Facebook pod-casters, tabletop gaming, as well as we do have the social media on Instagram at podcasters_tabletop gaming. So please make sure if you haven't done so, hit like, subscribe, and follow. We also do go live on YouTube if that's your thing. But for the most interaction with our players, because they do like to comment in the chat as well, head on over to that Twitch, make sure you hit subscribe. And we do go live for the most part every Sunday night from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and wrap up around 9 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time on in PM. Before we get into our discussion tonight any further, please, if you haven't yet, make sure to check out our sponsor, DCT Industries. You can get them on Facebook at DCT Industries tabletop gaming, as well as on Instagram, DCT_industries. They have a new game that they're dropping called Kaimon. It's a mix of wargaming meets the monster collecting genres such as Pokemon, Digimon, Bakugan, where you and other players will battle each other, 3 Kaimon on a board. They have a series of attacks that you can choose to make D6 rolls to decide whether you hit with the damage. And it's fun. It's played on a standard 2x2 gaming board. The terrain brings in advantages and disadvantages, as well as a little extra perks. I was able to play a few sessions with it. It was really fun. And I highly advise you to head on over. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and check out some of the Kaimon because there'll be more coming to you later this year. All right, guys, let's get into tonight's discussion. I'm Anthony, your Dungeon Master generally, but tonight we got Ricky Coates, Danny Chavez, Mark Warner. Guys, we'll say Danny, introduce who you do play. Generally, give us your character and their class, maybe their subclass too.
Hey guys, Danny Chavez. I play Howard, the human warlock, who has taken a pact with one of the great old ones. So there's that element to it. But yeah. I don't know what else you want to know about Howard. He's a warlock. He's very conflicted at this moment. If you're caught up, I don't want to give away too much spoilers if you haven't yet, but he's very conflicted with his being and he's going through an existential crisis is basically like the best way to say it. So yeah, that's where he's currently at.
I do feel we do see Howard have those existential crises, and it's very fun. I'm sorry that I put him through this, and I hope it's not, I hope you're not living vicariously through Howard and I'm putting you through the existential crisis.
Oh God, no. Like for me, Daniel, this is like my Christmas. I absolutely love it. Howard, on the other hand, hates you, but like Danny loves this. So
all right, that's all that matters. All right. We have our rogue Remus. Ricky, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Remus. I don't know. I still don't know why I do that every time. I think I did it the first week and I just kept going with it.
It's become like your staple card, man. Every time you introduce
it's just
yourself.
like, I'm Ricky Coates. I play Remus, our tiefling rogue, soul knife rogue, I guess, which I didn't even know I was going to play till it was suggested, or I think I just looked through a bunch of stuff and it was some new unearthed arcana at the time, and I was like, hey, do you want to try and work with this? And Anthony, being the I want to say Anthony's a very flexible dungeon master. He's very good with
He is.
like trying stuff out. He like if you're willing to try something out, and like even if it's like too OP, we'll nerf some stuff, or like we'll work on different things and make it cohesive to the game so everyone's having fun with it.
Exactly
Right,
what he
Anthony?
said. Exactly what he said. Sorry,
Those are
especially-
good things.
Especially in the beginning with like I loved the little blood mask thing because that regenerated my HP to a certain point, and you're like, yeah, no, that's too OP. Nix.
well, I nixed it in a fun, creative way.
Yeah, no, dude, I love it though.
And I'll say, as I said before, I'm a newer DM, and you guys were my testing grounds at the very, very beginning. I learned I don't want to say it's a rookie DM mistake, but I learned a common dungeon master mistake of wanting to reward players with magic items so abundantly. And there's a reason that by level 5, you should maybe only have 1 or 2 magic items. Maybe. You start collecting magical items I have to upscale encounters, and it becomes a constant fight, not only with you, but I'm also fighting myself. And that's not fun. Real quick, just quick disclaimer throughout this. There is going to be spoilers going through. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the inner workings of our players and their thoughts, don't watch this episode, unfortunately. Make sure you catch up to where you're at. And maybe when we're wrapped up on a chapter or end the campaign, then come back to this. But this will be a fun discussion. Also, second disclaimer, there may be moments that you see me get up and walk away from the camera. I currently have a nice print in the process over on the 3D printer, and I don't want to have to reprint it again. I have another 3 hours left on it. So when I do walk up and step away for a moment, my friends and players are gonna take over, and they'll keep the conversation going for you also. Thank you guys so much.
So we did great the first time so far.
Yes.
But no, just to touch on that, like I think you had a really good way, not to say like of retconning it, but a smooth transition within the game of kind of piecing apart different magic items. Because like we came back from the Feywild, and certain things worked for us, and then other things were just the magic properties had left them entirely. Like I know for me, I had a short sword from a Shivanti cleric that did an extra like D6 poison damage once per turn, which is an awesome item, by the way. Like it's more of like a bargaining chip with the sword itself. Like I would roll, and then if I hit a certain number, like I would take the damage, or like the player I was attacking would take the poison damage. So I had those, and I had the gloves of I'm still wearing the gloves because I'm protecting my hands and they're not magical anymore, but they were like the conjuring gloves, so it was just like little extra cantrip things. But it like I just thought it was cool because the way, at least from I haven't been playing that long, but like anytime I've encountered the Feywild, it's unpredictable. It's like that I've only played I think it's a druid once, the like the wild magic surge table.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I love
sorcerer.
Sorcerer, that's it.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
I love that table, and like I feel like the Feywild ties very well into that. And then also, I just like if I could create an item that followed that table in the future for someone or anything, I would do it because I just anything can happen. It's great. It's so much fun.
The Fays are very fun, and it's a really good for plot. I'm kind of fixing some plot armor for myself. I like that you did bring up the Shivanti blade, because when I'm going to give you guys magic items, that was one of the later ones. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'll give another magic item. And I realized, oh, they're slowly collecting them. And I think when you went into the temple originally, you were looking, you're like, I'm going in looking for magic items. And I'm like, oh wow, if you're going in specifically for items and you're looking to collect, I need to start giving trade-offs. Like, you can get this, but I'm also going to hurt and take down your health along the way. And it worked. And there was a few times you're like, shoot, yeah, I take some extra damage here. And it worked good. But real quick, Mark, did you introduce yourself yet?
No, he only introduced me and Ricky. Go ahead, Mark.
Mark, introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Mark. I play Aegon, the wild shaping druid, currently with some changes coming up in the near future for, I think, the better, from a storytelling and from a playing perspective. And I will get more into that later on. But here I am.
Thank you. I didn't want to get all in. So yeah, I really use you guys as you're my testing grounds. You guys helped me kind of learn how to gauge down encounters, really run with a nice story, a setting. And honestly, you guys are a little bit of an ego boost for me. And I'll be very open about that because there are times I'm like, I don't think they're getting the story. I don't think they understand that what's happening. They're not connecting dots. And then you guys pull off like, no, we know that this is happening. And you're like Finks with the he's looking for the pages on the blood moon. And then you guys start connecting and start asking about the way how his eyes look and then what that will do. And then with the Blood King and Danny Howard Steve keeps bringing that up. Like it's still out there. So that's somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, thank you. You guys aren't just taking details and just throwing it away. So with that being said, I like to open it up to you guys to say, what are your characters thinking? What is Remus's and Howard's thoughts? And you know what? It's been a minute since Azoth had was able to ask. So even so, if Azoth wants to drop in, what is he thinking? So I believe.
I was going to say, just to clarify,
Yes.
It's really more Mark, Tony, and Ricky that are pretty good at like putting pieces of the threads together. I'm just sitting along for the ride like, I don't fucking know what I'm doing. And then Mark will say something and be like, oh yeah, that's good. Like I just play it off as like, oh yeah, I already knew that. But no, for the most part, it's the three of them carrying me around. So just don't believe the facade of like, oh, I know what Howard's doing, because I really don't.
Well, I mean, they do carry Howard around at times too, I
They
think.
do. Yeah. Yeah, they
Quite
do. Literally, figuratively.
So opening the door, what would Howard, Remus, even Azoth, what are they thinking? What do they want to know? What's something that they've wanted to ask?
Oh, before we jump into that,
Yes.
because we did this with myself and Tony.
Yes.
I mean, you guys kind of did. Why don't you guys tell us a little about Howard and Remus? Just a quick kind of recap from where you guys, because you guys started before Tony and I did. So you've got a little bit of a story and history going on. So why don't you kind of catch us all up to speed on, you know, who are you? What are you doing? What's your goal? Like that kind of a thing. And then
I'll jump into there. Mark?
Yeah.
Great idea. Let's go with that, guys.
Hell yeah.
All right, who wants to jump? Ricky, you want to go first or me?
Sure, I'll go first. All right.
Go for it, man.
I'm Remus. No, I mean, so yeah, let's go back. It's about a year and a quarter now, a year and a couple months.
Yeah.
Like
Anthony asked me if I wanted to do a D&D like a game, and we were gonna stream it and like podcast it, maybe see how it goes, do a couple things. I was like, all right, cool. I've been playing for a little while. It was like D&D was something I found after taking a break from when I first stopped touring full time and like came back to the area before I started playing and filling in and working again in music. So it was cool. I love D&D because it's a very good creative outlet to let your brain wander different ways. And I will always appreciate that. So Remus started. One thing I like to do with characters is I like to not like half make them, but like 3/4 make them. I like to make it like a base, leave some vagaries, because I like to like have a not like, yeah, I guess a give and take with the DM. Like I like to leave some things for them to either like contribute flavor wise or like work into the story however they made. So like Remus, if anyone's watched our first episode, that's my dog Tucker. If anyone's watched our first episode, it was us approaching a funeral. Boom Boom, who was played by Rick, came out of the woods. Myself and Danny's character Howard were at the funeral, which I think Remus was in the town pulling a long con. I have no idea who he was trying to steal from, but it just made sense for a rogue backstory that I was there targeting someone trying to steal their magical items, which ties into why I was trying to just collect magical items. That was the thing at the beginning, was like, all right, I'm just going to make this giant rogue magical weapon treasure hoard.
I think it
And
was the guy that like ended up passing away that you were trying to con, and like he just ended
that
up
might have been
dying
it too.
Yeah,
I think
so.
I think that was it. I can't remember who it was. We had started off with it was the Frozen Death plot hook that when COVID hit last year, that it gave out free samples, and that's kind of where I was like, you know what, I'll use this as like built campaign material and break off and kind of spawn my whole little homebrew world off of this. We did start in Wildmount, and it was a Frozen 6 storyline. I believe you could find it in the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, but it was given to free and it was on D&D Beyond. So I think you may even be able to see it. So we did pick up with that. And Ricky, I think you're right. That's where Remus was going to be conning the man that it started the whole this whole
he
plot
died.
of.
He died,
yeah,
so I was
he
just
died.
kind of left with nothing else to do.
I think you took his wolves too, if I'm not
No.
mistaken.
This
Oh,
was
no,
another
so
woman we
okay,
tried to get
never mind.
information from.
That's right. That's
who
right.
I still eventually, if we ever end up in the dimension or plane of Wildmount again, hope she's gone and the wolves are still there. But I don't know how time works in other planes, so that could be anything. But yeah, so Remus started out as just like that, kind of like a simpler rogue character, but room to grow, room to build. I think my bloodline, I might have just like researched a few different, because tieflings have like a variety of different bloodlines you can go through, and I just picked one. And Anthony's really where the rest of the storylines came from for that. So there wasn't, Remus kind of started out as like not accessory character, but like a B character almost. Like didn't exactly need to be a face, kind of kept to himself, and just was there for skills, filling in, and then his story just kind of developed over time. Which now, if you've been watching long enough, he's
invested.
Confused. He's invested, but he's also
invested,
just
confused.
like, it's like, I think a good way to describe this is just like, he made, like, if you were in Incepted, like the movie Inception, if you were in like 3 layers of it, but you were the guy that knew the whole time that you were inside of it, but couldn't figure out how to get out. So you're just like, I'm here. I don't really know what's going on or why it's happening, but I will take care of me and I'll make sure things go smoothly so maybe we can get out.
I was going to say, it seems like he's very accepting too. They're just like, oh yeah, we're in a different plane. Of course we're in a different plane. Why wouldn't we be? Let's go.
Well, that's the thing. At this point, we've shifted like four times now.
I love it. So yeah, he's very much of like the, okay, yeah, of course this is gonna happen. Why not? So let's roll with it.
So that's I guess that's some insight on early Remus to now. Like now we've so another spoiler, we've found out who my dad is, who is Mammon, which is a money demon, is the easiest way I can describe it.
He is the, oh my god, I'm gonna go blank on the layer of hell. He's the Lord, I think it's the 5th layer of hell.
I was gonna say,
he is a
like
devil.
5th or 6th, I don't remember.
Oh my gosh, hold on, let me see, where is it? Mammon.
And I had a quest to get him the soul battery, which in classic like Ricky fashion, I saw it, but I also misinterpreted it slightly and it went awry. So no one was happy with the end outcome. So he was not happy with me, and then has now charged me with a new task that I've been aware of, but also we've been slightly avoiding. So maybe we're going to do it.
I'm curious to see if you guys are going to try and really push for it. I mean, if in all fairness, as a DM, if I want you guys to go there bad enough, I may just make it happen. We'll see though. I may let you guys believe it's your own choice and decisions.
So in character, Remus knows he has to do this. He's like, all right, I fucked up once. I need to do this. Like, I know this guy has, if I can open a door randomly in another dimension and go to his office, this guy has ridiculous powers that are out of my league. So I should probably do what he's asked me to do. Like, I know he's just doing more of a kindness as like his quote unquote son to give me a second chance. So
Mhm.
it's like it's always there, but like being in Barovia now, he's just like, I don't. Are these the weapons aren't here as far as I know? Like they might be in this dimension, but like I think they're in the last ones where we're in the desert and go into the mountains. So that's where we're at.
It is. And I'll say that is there's a bit of a double tip. There's a bit of a double tip sword. It could be that I'm adapting on the fly. It could be that a story is being rewritten. It could be that you guys were not on the right track to begin with, and I let you believe that you were. Because you guys were in the
But
desert and you never confirmed any 100% sure that this is the direction we had to go. Yeah, you had some good roles, but Mammon
we had
didn't
loose
say
ideas.
you have loose ideas.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things as a DM with you all is that I like to not lead you guys, but I feel like I bait you in multiple ways and I let you guys pick which direction you wish to go.
Oh, I
And-
know.
I
Uh,
could say you are the master of it.
Oh,
Oh, you're funny.
Sorry,
You're
sorry,
funny.
I had to.
You're funny. Well
no,
played.
but I mean that's the fun of the game too. Is like I don't know if you guys ever noticed, but like sometimes I pick up on when there's bait being led for other players, and I'm just like I can't do anything. I just really want to see what happens now.
Yeah.
All
There's
right.
times too, like for instance, with the whole crown thing, like I wanted to like really go into the mist and go grab it, but Howard would have been more like, maybe not, just given like especially like what he just went through. So having Finks go for him was like,
And that's a Finks thing to do.
beautiful. And that's a Finks thing to
Finks-
do too. So
Would do it.
it's like realizing the baits and then like realizing like, okay, who would actually fall for it? Finks would. Okay, let's send Finks.
And it's not even that he's falling for it. He's
I
just
know,
like,
like he's
yeah,
willing to
okay.
go. Like that's his thing. So yeah, I love it.
Finks is a fun character. Danny, you brought up Howard. Let's jump in. So Howard, this kind of origin story. Remus was trying to play the long con in Islecross, over in Wildmount. What was Howard's kind of backstory, and how did he end up leading to this funeral? I don't fully recall it. I believe we were just kind of like, you're all at the funeral, and then you saw
it's basically
Boom
like
Boom
he
walking
just
out the
happened to
field.
be. All right, so backstory on Howard. Howard was like a 2 not even minute backstory that I wrote for him. He was originally based off of a different game that I used to play with a different game group in Pathfinder that was like following this whole. It was very much of like a Eldritch campaign guide, so that's where I got the inspiration for Howard. And then that group kind of fell apart, and you at like the same time that fell apart, you were like, hey, I'm trying to put together this group, would you want to do that? I was like, yeah, sure, I want to bring Howard over, I love him. So that's how he originated, but his backstory is more just like he was the kid that was just like pushed around his entire life. He got tired of it, and one day, he doesn't remember how it happened, but he made a pact with a unknown certainty entity that would grant him power to not be pushed around anymore and to actually push back the bullies, I guess, if you want to call it that, at the expense of what he doesn't know. So I didn't want to go like too far, like, oh, like what does he know? I love leaving, I'm the same as Ricky, like I like leaving that open and vague.
Yes.
Like if Howard doesn't know it, I don't want to know it until either Anthony comes up with something and blows my mind half of the time, and I'm just like, well done. I couldn't even thought something better, But yeah, so that's his basic like background. It's just like very basic. He just didn't want to be pushed around anymore, so he made a deal, and now he's the pusher.
It's really cool to see how Howard is. He's not a hardy guy, and he doesn't like to back down. Like he puts himself in these situations of, I probably shouldn't do this. Probably gonna get hurt. I'm gonna go push the button.
No, and that's a challenge too, because like as a gamer, I'm very much of like the ranged, and as you can tell, like I typically try to stay ranged whenever like we're in combat situations. That's like my play style. So like sometimes it's hard for me to like go against that because that's what Howard would do in that moment. So like it's a lot of fun for me just like tapping into that whole aspect of myself, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And like just trying something completely different and just being like, this isn't something I normally would do, but as Howard, what would he do in this instance?
Mhm.
So
it's been very fun to see Howard's journey, and everyone, I feel like I try to give everyone's characters a fair share. That's one of the tasks that I feel as a dungeon master that is part of the responsibility. Yes, is it a collaborate, at least in the way I see how 5th edition is to be played, is it's more of a collaborative storytelling. It really is. Yes, there is a peril that it's a game and there's rules, and those rules are in place that can be broken at moments, but they're in place to keep nothing too overpowered, to keep it in check. But if such a focus on role playing, interaction, and that's something that is harder for me, but to make sure that I also give each of you your own chance and opportunity to progress your own stories, and to see Howard slowly build this feeling, this affinity to wanting to start a cult, to seeing where he may go now with developments in Barovia. It's interesting because I've given Remus his time with Mammon and trying to be like, all right, here's your moments here. You have you've had side conversations of like, what are you doing? Danny, we've had side conversations with Howard and his patron and where that's going. Mark, we've had discussions with Azoth. Be like, all right, so what are we doing? How and the discussions are more so on the actual character himself rather than the backstory. And that's one of the great aspects about having you on this. And it's fun because it's like getting to watch someone, not, I want to say learn, but it's kind of learning on the fly too. And it's very rewarding to see everyone give their all. You guys are not lazy players, and I'm very vocal about that. Tell my friends, I tell anyone else I talk D&D with, I tell you guys this. You guys are not lazy, and you all put you all bring 110% on Sunday nights. That's what I love. So
yeah, that's one thing I do have to say about this group, and I love playing with you guys, is like that's the first time I've ever actually met you through Zoom. Like I've never actually physically met you, mainly because I'm in Florida. But like this is like the first time meeting you guys was like through our first game nights together. And like, I don't know, for me, it's like I've gained a couple of friends now, and it's like I could really like trust these guys. And it's very, I don't know, I guess it's just like a testament of like how we mesh well together and like how we play well together. And like we're able to go off of each other and bounce ideas off of each other. That I don't know, it's just I love this group. So
you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so Howard and Remus's beat intro, a little bit of an origin, started in Wildemount. I ended up plane shifting you all and forcing that to be able to bring it to a homebrew world. And at the time we were incorporating some other players because I was trying to expand the party a little bit. And I'll say this one as a dungeon master, a rule that I kind of a lesson I learned was know the party and be cautious before just saying, hey, let's bring new people into this also. Because it's awesome and fun, but if you're newer at this and you're not used to having new players jump in, and earlier on in a campaign, because it was only like 4 sessions before we brought in Arlo and Rune. And
something like that.
It was only like 4 or 5 sessions in, they jumped in and it was like, all right, party dynamic had a little bit of a shift, and you all kind of adapted and meshed. And we went for a little bit, but then there's been other dynamic changes. And that's where it was very hard for me to say, well, who would come in to fill in with Danny and Ricky? Because, with Rick was getting busy with work. We understood the Boom Boom was going to have to step off. We had a great send off performance with Boom Boom and Mama and in Brian's spell. Sorry, not Brian's spell. That was in Berghold.
I think so.
That was in Berghold, the Church of Bahamut.
Yeah.
Over by Puff's shop.
Which I have to say, bravo for having him come back as a guest, because now you've thrown Howard into a loop.
I still don't know. I still don't know if he was actually Boom Boom or if it was like Boom Boom at like.
I don't know, but he forced Howard to remember everything, so that has consequences, and I'm all for it. So
I am
Which
sorry,
is
but
like it's no, don't be sorry. It's great, man. Like I love like being thrown curveballs, and you're like, oh crap, okay, how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to work this? Like right now, for like a little bit behind the scenes, Howard um isn't sure if he wants to continue as a warlock or if he wants to try to multi-class into something else. He's very much on the fence right now, and kind of like up in the air to see like what pans out before he makes that decision. So
I don't know if this. I just today was the first time that I've actually heard both of your guys' backstory. For Remus, just from playing with you and then going to see Mammon, and you're like, oh, that was my dad. And like, oh, okay, you can put the pieces together as a character and as a player. For Howard, I was just like, it's a dude in a mask and a yellow coat, and there's some king or whatever. But hearing you talk about the background of him, just running through the back of my mind right now, I don't know if this was intentional or not. Kratos in the God of War series. I
Yeah.
love that series. Like it's one of my favorite ones to play on the PlayStation. But if you're not familiar with the game or that arc, Kratos quite literally is the leader of the Spartans, and he makes a deal with Ares, the God of War. He basically says, "Come and help me defeat my foes, and I'm yours." And that kind of just reminded me of your thing with the patron. You're like, help me with as a weakling, stand up for it. And then if you follow the God of War story, he kind of goes along and he wants to now, like, because of the consequences of accepting his offer, basically is what's driving him now. He killed his family and now he's angry at the God of War and he wants to kill the god. Like he's on
Yeah,
this
yeah.
like, hell-bent quest for revenge. And more recently in the storyline, he's made it to the Norse gods in the God of
Yeah.
War for PlayStation 4. And you see him now as a humbled old man, kind of like trying to forget, not so much forget as kind of put away his past. And like, it totally is just reminding me right now. If you're like, he doesn't know if he wants to do it anymore. I'm like, holy shit, you're Kratos. You are like it's great.
Yeah.
And I love it. That just makes me now love Howard even more.
Oh, that's
Knowing
awesome.
that there's this like, I don't even know if it was like supposed to happen that way, but this whole boom boom thing and remembering, like you're just getting that flooded back to you. You're like, I just may have made some really bad decision. I'm like, I love this. This is
Yeah.
so awesome.
And from Howard's point, like being that kid that was like always pushed around and like, yeah, he did whatever deal he did to gain power and like never let that happen again. It's more of like the sudden realization that he was pushed around again, unbeknownst to him. Like he was tricked into being forced into doing things that he normally wouldn't do. So when it like all the memories flooded back and everything for him, it's more of just like oh shit, like I was duped again and I was pushed into doing shit. How am I going to rectify this? How am I going to fix this? And how am I going to possibly get revenge or figure out a way? But he's very unsure right now just because it is an elder god that he is gaining his power from. So he may have his power still. It may be taken away from him. He doesn't know. He's playing it safe at the moment just to see like what may happen, but he'll definitely come up with some kind of retribution.
Warlocks are very fun to have
Yeah.
in your party as a dungeon master.
Yeah.
A few of the campaigns I have attempted to start and run, and that I have ran. I've had Howard. Boom Boom was a warlock.
Yeah.
One of my friends players, they had a tiefling that was a pact with the Fae, and their patron was the Summer Court Tatiana, or is it Titania? I think her name is Titania.
Tatiana.
Is it Tatiana? It's
don't
one of the, I go blank. But like it's what we didn't go far in it. I brought them to Barovia, and her character took a dark spin because Barovia is not your classic setting. Barovia is very much, it's a gothic horror setting. I mean,
Yeah, it's very much gothic horror, which like I like too. And for Howard's sake, him already like starting to lean toward darker like tendencies and stuff like that before the memories came back. Like I'm kind of interested to see like what's gonna happen with him as far as like, is he gonna go back that dark route again? Like how much is he willing to regain power to do whatever, but knowing now at the cost of like what it's going to cost him for it. So yeah, I'm very
It leaves him
interested to
very
see.
on the fence morally.
Yeah,
That
Well,
yeah,
rocks.
morally, yeah,
Warlocks create instant plot hooks. It literally, you're when you're a dungeon master and you have a warlock in your party, you're bringing in a plot hook established already. Whether it being someone that has ties to an elder god, and it's one of those you don't have to do much interaction as the patron, but it's still that's a whole narrative that you can build off of. You're not given just be like you're not giving me a fighter that has they're a fighter and they were a knight and that's that. Okay. Even if you're like, hey, they're a warlock, I really don't know what they do. That's Cthulhu. You may not have any interaction with them, but because you have Cthulhu, we are now bringing in cults, weird eldritch monsters, aberrations. You're not going to go unnoticed.
I mean, that is one of Howard's goals, and it may or may not be one of my New Year's resolutions was to start a cult. So if it's through Howard, then hey, I succeeded.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So with the background of that, I opened it up because we took you guys from Wildmount. You came over to Fabala. You made some friends. You ended up fighting a dragon in the Shivanti temple where Remus had found his sword. You had found the mask. No, you found the mask at Berghold.
Yeah.
I
completely forgot
Forget about the
about that,
dragon?
like the black dragon encounter
Black
and
dragon,
just
yeah,
how
yeah.
ridiculous it went down. Like I have the
fast.
golden dragon claw in my inventory still, and like it just clicked with me now, just the ridiculousness of that encounter. But also I wanted to just touch on real
Yes.
quick.
I was gonna say,
I love that you like your transitions. Like I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, how you were like struggling at first to like think of a good way for like players to come in, come out, stuff like that. I think every one we've done so far has been great. Like the way Rune and
Arlo.
oh my god,
Arlo.
Arlo, we're all teleported in at the same time, so it's just chaos. No one knows what's going on, and there's just what I assume is some sort of decrepit vampire thing also being teleported in with us, or like how Howard and I just happened to end up in, or Howard and I and Boom Boom, I think, ended up in a prison cart with Finks and Azoth. Like it just simple little things, but like they make it fit so well that it's not really that like it's not bumpy. It allows for that organic kind of transition and growth within the party too.
You
Yeah.
guys, it felt you. Well, I'll say this one. Mark and Tony both let me very much play the hand as I wished. And they're like, you set us up how you need it to be. And I did a little bit of background discussion with them both, be like, all right, where are we going to be? But it felt very much like a session 0 all over again. And that's, I think, one of the things that felt with you guys as a Fabala 5 felt really strong and solid, because it was like campaign was having I don't want to say a reboot, but a soft reboot in a way. But moving from Berghold, you guys have definitely grown from, because when it was just you and when it was just Remus and Howard, you guys were task efficient. A, B, and C. We're going to the farm. We're taking this down. We're coming back. We got the Pegasus shit. All right, we're going to the shop. We're getting this.
I was gonna say there's
so
some
many
missing
holes
girls
left.
still. Screaming girl. Oh, the screaming stopped. She's either dead or fine.
That scarecrow
Whatever.
just vanished into
yeah.
the woods. All right.
All right, whatever. Well, I got my Pegasus. That's all I care about.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And they sold us out.
Hey,
I know, dude. He still wants to go back and collect his reward for
Money.
that. Yeah. Because it was like before he could collect it, he got carried away by guards and then being hauled off to the next town. So
listen,
he
I
still wants to
had
go
a
back and collect, man.
I had a session I had to move forward with. I'm
That's all
sorry.
good, man. That's all good. I love it.
But moving in from there, introducing with Mark and Tony, Remus and Howard, you guys weren't when you were working with Boom Boom, the three of you worked well because it was Boom Boom was more of a melee. Howard took on more of a mage side. And Remus, you were the rogue. It was very much you each fit into one of those niches. Bringing in the healer and a druid opened it up a little bit more now. So how did you feel? And how were Remus's and Howard's first reactions with these are new players that we are meeting new people again? Are they going to disappear? Are we going to have to forget about them? What were your thoughts bringing in when you met your new players, new characters, not the players, the characters?
I was gonna say, my thoughts were, thank God we finally have a healer or somebody to help us. Howard's point of view, though, is in the back of his mind, he's still kind of waiting for them to kind of disappear or whatnot, just because he's used to it now with Boom Boom and Arlo and Rune. But yeah, so like he wasn't quite sure like what to make with these guys. Yeah, they can tag along and they're helpful for the moment, and maybe he can use them to his advantage for a while until he doesn't need them anymore. But over time, it's gotten to the point now like where he's kind of gotten used to them. He's gotten to the point like where he can trust them as a group or like even as friends. And so again, that kind of plays into like his whole confliction of like normally he's like, okay, if you don't serve a purpose for me anymore, I don't care about you. But like these guys now he actually cares about. So it's very fun to kind of keep that in the back of my mind, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ricky.
I'd say like, I don't know, Reeves had a similar reaction. Like it was, we've been bouncing around with so many different things, so many people. He's like, all right, well, these guys are here. They seem like they want to do the same thing. Let's just run with it. Like let's all get together. We're all trying to do something. Like no one seems to have any weird hangups or caveats that are like red flags in Remus's head. So why not go, especially where like just where his idea of like where he was he's like, all right, well, anything could happen, so we'll try it. We'll see what works. Yeah, I think I like our party dynamic. One, because we're all very like we're creative, but we all have a lot of different assets available to us. But two, but especially once Boom Boom had left the party, especially like he was more of our melee kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
No one's really like a strict martial class. Like I would have some light martial stuff. Azoth would have some like we would be the two that would be more likely to go into combat, which that kind of not helped me, but like I did have to make a couple changes with Remus and make sure like I was playing it a little bit better when we got into those scenarios, because I didn't want to leave us with any holes, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
Like when instead of taking stats, I took the Sentinel feat.
Which I mean that has come in clutch in how many battles?
Yeah.
And
Funny,
and you're running with even the sword play too. Like you were really like, all right, I'm used like you have another sword that you have too that I think you found.
I keep a rapier now because no, for anyone else, like it doesn't really make sense for them to go up and in. As a rogue, like one of the styles of play for rogues, at least from what I've learned, which I think this is my second rogue I've ever played, is you're supposed to be more like a kite. You're supposed to like you bob and like I don't know. I don't even use kites, so I can't use terminology. But like you come in and then you get out. Like you move left, you move right. Like that bonus, like you go in, you attack, and then you bonus action disengage and get out of there. So you're not left vulnerable, because rogues are still kind of like they're not the most squishy, but they're not like we're not wearing heavy armor. We're not using shields. Like we don't have a crazy AC by any means.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things I think about at times.
I think you do it well, and Azoth definitely has picked up with the melee as a B shape, and you're using it to your to the party's advantage. And then even Finks has been more conscious of combat competitive spells. I mean, he's there to help and heal you guys, but there have been a few fights that he's chosen to fight rather than heal.
Yeah, and he's got his spiritual weapons, his spiritual guardians. He's got Mark. I think you especially like Anthony said, like jumping into this is not after playing for a while. I don't know much about druids, but the way you've kind of honed how you use your wild shapes, your bracelet, and like it's very tactile and it's awesome. Like it's a wide cast net too. So like you use different animal shapes for different things.
Yeah. That's honestly that's mostly a fluke and lots of research. I looked back at the very first session with you guys and how much I actually sat back in that session. A lot of it was because we hadn't been introduced yet, but once we came into the picture and there was the battle that was happening at the stage with all the spellcasters and the beholder and everything, like I didn't know what I was doing. And I really didn't want to come off. I can say this now. I really didn't want to come off as not knowing what I was doing. I mean, I legit was like, I couldn't tell you what dice to roll, what I needed to do, what the rules of combat or anything were. So I wanted to play it safe and play it back. And I think like Anthony had mentioned earlier, the whole idea of trying to really figure out Azoth and how to play as him or go the
circle,
whatever the route, the different things. Like I was really trying to, again, and this is where that research came into play. It took me a lot of like different reading on D&D Beyond with like druids and the different subclasses. There's so much like on the surface, and then you really have to go deeper if you want to invest in it. And I realized that that's what I was doing. So on my downtime between like study halls and things like that, when I was teaching, I was like flipping through D&D Beyond, and I was like really trying to piece out what I could do to be more of a support character and be more involved. And then that's when this whole like wild shape thing, and that's when we were in the I think when we were in the desert is when I really got into, when we were in that temple and everything, is really trying to experiment with how it can be used in that sense. So I just contribute that to researching and not wanting to feel like I was letting anybody down by not knowing what I was doing and just kind of like half-assing it. Like as fun as this is, and as fun as it is to like hang out with you guys and play and just kind of like, eat some Cheez-Its and whatnot, a lot of it too is like I treat it serious. Like I don't want to do something stupid to throw out. Like Anthony puts in work to write the story and to figure out what we're doing. We all take time out of our schedules to come together to have fun and essentially perform for whoever's listening or watching. So in essence, we are working. And I don't want to be that guy that just kind of comes in and slacks off and doesn't put in his all, but wants to be able to be like, I did as best as I could with what I had available, and what can I bring to help contribute. So a lot of it came too from watching you guys and seeing how you guys are doing things. Like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. All right, we've got a chance to ask questions to like, can I do this, instead of just assuming that. So yeah.
Well put.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Mark.
the beautiful thing
Hell
about
yeah.
D&D too. And yeah, like the beautiful thing about like this game, and especially Anthony as like a dungeon master, is he's very willing to adapt or like give you that, oh, I want to try this. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's try it and see where this goes. And like with this game, it's very much of like a open world. Like the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want in here. Now there's certain rules that you can sometimes have to follow or whatnot, and that's up to Anthony's discretion. But overall, man, we want to go, steal a Pegasus. Why not?
You know what really helped too, honestly, is your guys' one-offs.
Yeah.
The Podsville specials, the
Oh.
Halloween, Christmas, and even yours at the Manor, Danny.
Yeah.
When you led, it was a great way to also see how somebody else DMs. And I'll speak for Titus. He's not here tonight, but he had a blast and he thought you did an awesome job. And both you, Anthony, and Danny kind of helped him, inspire him to write his own campaign.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's something that he's been working on for him and his friends. I don't know if he's gotten to do it yet or anything, but he's learned from the two of you guys, and like you both on those one-offs, because you get to have a little bit more fun. It's not really tied into anything. If something horrible happens and somebody dies, it doesn't really like throw anything off. It was like fun, but at the same time you realize it helps reinforce things you can do or can't do, and gives you a chance to do something different. So I have to give you two a lot of credit for that, because I think that in turn as well, the pacing of those kind of helped me see like, oh, I can play this way. So
Yeah.
The reason I whenever I talk about D&D and people are like, really, you play D&D? And apart from the whole like breaking the norm or breaking that whole like the expectations of what you like when you hear D&D, what you think. The reason I jumped into it was I finally was fed up and put up. I tell them like, oh, you want to know why I play D&D? Because it's a game that can't tell me I can't do something. I was finally tired of playing Skyrim for the 10th time in a row, and I get to a hill and it's like, why can't I jump onto the top of this hill?
Yeah.
I'm literally a fighter. I'm not a mage. I'm not a wizard. Like I'm a ranger. Like I should be able to get to the top of this part. It won't let me. I got to play. I'm doing something different. And this game allowed that for me. And that's why I really promote as a DM. If you want to make a roll, sure. And perfect example was the painting, the giant canvas painting in the very first episode, or is it the second episode with Boom Boom? He's like, I want to roll this. And I'm like, roll 100, roll a percentile dice. And it's like, yeah, man, I guess it listens, it works. Like when it's something that's way out there, I'll tell you, roll a percentile die. It's a percentage. Well, it's gonna be you gotta roll really, really low to get it. If you do, you do. But I try to give it where I can.
He has heard and listened through any and every silly, like crazy, out there, creative idea I've had this entire campaign. And to be honest, like I've been very fortunate because between Anthony and the couple other friends I've had DM me, they've all been very like they're willing to hear stuff out. Like I've heard horror stories from other people that are like some DMs are just very handbook, that's it, like you're playing by these rules, we're not going to try and figure this out or like see if we can flesh out these things. So it's awesome to have that sort of free reign to just be like, all right, well, if I think of this, why can't I think of it this way and try this out from this perspective? But dude, as far as like I thought for personally from like Remus's standpoint and Azoth, it's just Azoth developing as himself. Like he's figuring himself out as he goes through his journey. He's like, oh, I can do this. Like I can try these things. And like, I have these abilities I didn't really know I had before. So it all pieces together. Like like I'm never.
I was gonna say one thing I love too is like watching you take, for instance, Shape Water, which is like a whatever little spell that, oh yeah, I can move water so I can help get through. Cantrip. And you have found like some of the most creative ways of using it that I'm like, yes, let's get this. Let's do this, man. I'm all for it. So bravo to you, man. Just like, I know like for you, like you're learning as you're going along, but like standing back as like a player who's like, I'm not really a veteran, so I can't really say that. I have played for a few years now, but like just being able to sit back and watch you like kind of build up and like develop that, dude, it's great, man. I love it.
So when we were in, it was the Feywild. Was it the Fey? No. Where did we meet up with
Feywild?
With John.
Feywild.
Is the Feywild?
That was Feywild.
So I was having so many conversations with Anthony on the side for like weirdly odd, like you guys didn't know this, but I was like, so guys, like I was like, Anthony, technically blood is a liquid. It's not water, but there is water in blood. So could I like freeze the blood and expand it and explode him from the inside? He's like, no. But like, I was getting into weird, like, there's moisture in the air. So if we breathe it in, can we do like that Magneto thing from X-Men where he just like sucks it out of him and it just rips him full of hole? And I'm like, no.
You can't do that.
But he heard it out. He heard it out.
He heard it out.
He did. He took the time to actually listen. As crazy as it was, and he was like, no, but there was always a but. It wasn't just a flat
those
out
ideas
no.
are awesome.
It wasn't a flat out no, it was always no, but, and then it was like, that makes more sense. We can roll with this. But yeah, that's where Anthony and his ability to listen to us and our needs, because he wants to, he knows it's not about him.
It isn't. It's about all of us putting
as
this in
a
together.
GM, he's not making it about him.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's like, you realize we're the spices to make your chicken not bland.
Exactly.
And we all, I would say, at least from my standpoint, like we all do very well to have similar levels of spice.
Oh, yeah.
No one,
Yeah.
we're all, it's great because I watch and like we are all very active about listening to each other and like, oh, you're trying to do something right. All right, cool. Do your thing. Like we'll get involved when it makes sense, but we're not, no one's trying to
Nobody's trying to like step on each
take
other's
over.
toes. Yeah.
There's never been a point too where, and I've watched since started playing, I've watched other people, and I try and stay away from like the popular D&D shows, even though they're fun to watch, but to like really see how people play. I've caught like other shows and stuff like that, and you'll see where the DM is maybe focusing on, for the purpose of storytelling, on a particular character. Like maybe Anthony's focusing on Remus and what he's going through, and it's taking a bit of time. There's a lot that's happening, even though in game time it's a really quick process. There's a lot of back and forth that has to happen for it to unfold. I've never seen like Danny or Tony or myself become uninvested and bored or anxious with what's going on, where I've seen that with other people where they'll get sidetracked, or you can kind of see they're like, when is it going to be like me? Meanwhile, we're all like trying to like pay attention, be like, all right, what other cues can we grab from this to use for ourselves to do that? And like, it's like he's forcing us to pay attention, because if we don't, we're going to miss something, and that can have an impact on it. So
There have been times too that I'll drop a little bit of lore, little bits of moments, little bit of just subtle details. And you all do, you'll be like, wait, hold on, I picked up on that. Okay, cool. It is very
Damien.
noticeable. Damien being one of the biggest
No, hold on.
ones.
That's a question. I need to
Okay.
know if that was factual or if that was illusional right now, because I do not know still if Damien was actually in the temple, and Howard/Danny 100% believes it.
The way Anthony described it was like somebody that looked like a turtle, and then he started doing the voice, and it sounded like Damien. So like I messaged him, I was like, and I think you asked me or something like that, like if I picked up on something, because like I'm pretty sure you saw me like, oh shit.
You're like, you were visually reacting.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
I was like, and so I was like, is that Damien? And you're like, yep, that's totally him. But Howard at that time lost all memory of Damien and Boom Boom, so I couldn't say anything until like he finally regained his memory.
And I
so I've been
wouldn't
holding on to that for like the last, Mark and Tony wouldn't have known that because they hadn't met him like back.
We would just,
This was like in the very, very beginning.
But that's what I love about this game and about Tony and Finks, is because he had me so thrown that I thought, I was just like, oh, Finks is calling Salander Turtle Man because before he figures out he's Salander. And I'm just like, okay, that's weird, but that makes sense. So he had me completely thrown off the trail of what was actually real.
When I saw him going to that, I saw you. I'm like, wait, are you going to? I was waiting for you to pick up on asking, is that Damien? I'm like, we'll see if he picks up. And you completely, you ate Finks's bluff for me. And I was like, sweet, don't have to do anything. Finks did it for me. Howard knows, but Howard can't tell anyone. So this works. And that was
the inner turmoil I had to go through for like, I don't know how long that was, like a couple months now. I'm like wanting to say it, but I couldn't.
But yes, I will say
too.
that was Damien. Like that was very much that was Damien.
Yeah.
He's still floating around there.
I'm curious, Danny wants to know if the blood siphon daggers or the siphon daggers, apparently they don't work for Howard. However, he is still keeping, I think he has 2 in his inventory. If he could somehow figure out how to activate it and start stealing power, because that would kind of go in line with how he feels right now. So
I'll say it is in the realm. It is possible for Howard to activate them.
Okay.
But there are character prerequisites
No, it's all good.
when leveling up. Multi-classing would, to be blunt, you'll have to multi-class for it.
Okay.
I have two things. One, that was another item I completely forgot about. I forgot about the ciphers and just them like
The daggers.
Yeah.
With the necklace.
But Howard's already,
Uh,
yeah, I was gonna say Howard's tried it and like the power didn't work for him, or he couldn't figure out how to activate it. So, like in the back of his mind, he still has them, like in case he can figure it out and then start stealing power from people as well too.
So my second question is, it's about the property of the dagger itself, and you
Yeah.
you can choose not to answer or answer, Anthony. So when the dagger takes the power, is it like the dagger becomes a battery in sense and becomes charged with magical power, or it's more of a middleman where the dagger takes the power from one to the next person?
With your players having enough combat, and you guys did fight the spell ciphers for quite a few sessions, the dagger was more of a conduit to kind of transfer and siphon with the
Okay.
necklace. And you would see that either it went into the necklace to be used, but it was more or less a stealing of a spell slot to then be reused against you.
Gotcha.
So like the necklace itself was a battery in a way, but the dagger itself was more of like the middleman, the transaction point.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Those were fun ones. I forgot that you guys still had them too. That was like, oh yeah. They're floating around there.
Yeah.
We hoard everything.
I have a few things, like the little jade statue of like the storm giant we found back in like the second session.
Oh
when
yeah.
I took that, I guess, and the boom boom attacked the painting. So like I still have that in my inventory at some point. I'm sure it has nothing to do with anything, but I'm sure I'll find something for it.
Nah, I got something. I got some plans for it. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's
That'll be
okay. I
fun.
was gonna like slowly start building up my own little mini army, and I had like the storm giant. I had the little female Drider that I gave to Azoth after he started to follow Lolth. And then I was gonna like whatever else I could find and start collecting. I was just gonna create like my own little characters and have my own little army guys.
Let me see. All right. So how about this one? We'll start saying, let's do a quick little twist. So Mark,
Yeah.
let everyone. So Azoth took the decision to literally kind of. So you've been doing research on the background, and you've asked me on the side, hey, how can I learn about who is who? You literally called out to Lolth.
Yeah.
Hail Mary play? Was it waiting?
So
Have you been biting
Yeah,
that?
so-
What's up with that? Because that's a big moment.
that was so I think the way that came about was I personally, honestly, I think I was just sick and tired of the dungeon crawling. Like it's fun and all, but I feel like it was very constricting. Oh yeah, I don't even know if he's got his headphones on, he can hear me. I'll wait till he goes back. All right. So I was just saying the way that came about is I think I was getting tired and fed up with the dungeon crawling. Like I get it's crucial where it's Dungeons and Dragons, but I maybe I was feeling claustrophobic from just being in there. And I think I tried I think I was trying to go more along the again, this is like trying something new with the character. I was trying to go more the persuasive route when we were fighting whoever it was. And I thought I did a pretty good job of like charming him or being like deceitful, because that was in the back of my mind of being this like con person. Like maybe we can avoid this combat and kind of do this. And I was kind of like, I'll work for you. I think it was the Blood King. I was like, I'll work for you. We already like decapitated 3 of those dudes back there. Like you need more people, I'll bring you more people. I'll be your go-to guy. You just kind of let us go. I'll do you. And you were like, nah. I was like, all right, you had your chance. So in my mind, in Azoth's mind, it was there's a conflict that's already going on here that we just happened to walk into, and it's between the Blood King and Lolth and her followers. So there's some beef. So since you're not gonna work with me, I'm gonna go play for the other team then. I'm gonna go see if if they'll work for me. And that was one of those, like, I didn't feel like I could do it on my own. So I reached out and, kind of was going to play off that route and work with that for a bit. And kind of segueing out here, this was my initial plan, but now it's going to go in a different direction. My next plan was, now that we were going to be in, we are in
Barovia.
Barovia. We're in Barovia. I was going to kind of still go around that same route. And I was like, Lolth has got my back currently. Will she help me out here? I don't know. If need be, then I'll go switch teams and be like, team whatever or team whatever. And I was going to kind of see how many of these different gods, deities, whatevers that I could kind of like start to play against, and maybe even have them all turn against each other and just cause some chaos.
You're just going to pull a Constantine on them?
Yeah.
All right.
But that's kind of going down the tube now, because
where we're gonna go.
Where we're gonna go with this.
All right. So before we get into that, Ricky, Danny, any other questions? Because I think when Mark and Tony came out, their characters had more about what's going on. You guys had a lot of questions that kind of really throw at me, and I think that was maybe also either one, your player styles, but also you were jumping into the campaign.
Right.
They're coming from the very get-go, and they both, right off the bat, you both were like, we don't want to know it unless we're supposed to know it. So is there anything left that you're like, that you want to know if you can know before we move forward? Anything left that you're like, I got to know this before we move on?
Homie that we threw in the trunk that I guess was transported.
The nice pants guy.
The nice pants, yeah.
Man. He ended up somewhere in the Empire, in the Empire, in Wildmount, over in Gwendole's court, and it was a bad day for whoever had the other chest.
Yeah, I was kind of interested to see like how that would all play against us later on, but then like we started jumping into different worlds and stuff. So like Howard's point of view, it's like, oh, okay, he'll never have to deal with him again.
No,
so it's fine. I was just curious. I was like, one of the
that
best
was
things.
Also just like a crazy like I don't know if I would call it a character trait or flaw, but Rick just came out of nowhere and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna start taking pants now and giving them to the captain.
Yeah. I think it was very much of like that squirrel, like that, ooh, nut, like whatever type of like,
yeah.
It's like his thought process. It was like, I'm just gonna take pants, why not?
But that was Boom Boom though.
Yeah.
Hey.
Speaking of Boom Boom, that I think that like I've been trying to go back and think if there were any questions. All right. I guess you probably want answers. Was it really Boom Boom? Just last week or 2 weeks ago?
Felt very much like Boom Boom.
It's such a DM answer.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
Roll the percentile back.
It felt like him.
It felt like him.
All right.
You believe it was Boom Boom.
Things felt like he was touching a crown in the mist.
It seems like it.
No, yeah, I don't really have any questions about the direction we're going, just because things are developing already in Barovia as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to see. You could ask me what could happen next session, and 40 things could probably happen.
Oh, it's
werewolves with lasers.
Yeah. So any direction, like things I haven't even thought of yet could happen, and we're gonna get to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say if you have played Curse of Strahd, one of the things that I love about it is that the game that you can play this module, and its run from level 1 to 10. So by the time that the characters would face off with the final villain and kind of conclude, they should be reaching level 10, and you guys are jumping in late. So I am going to try and follow the beats of Curse of Strahd, but I'm taking liberties with it. One of my favorite things is that in the game, they have their own mechanic system to keep it fresh every time. I don't know if I talked about it on air, but I talked about it off air with a few of you that, there's a whole idea of that. There's a tarot cards involved in the game, and those determine the beats of the game. And depending on how you guys shuffle, how we shuffle other cards and pull them, that will lay out portions of it. And we could play this same campaign 5 times in Barovia, and it can be different every single time because of the story beats from that. So one, if you've played Curse of Strahd and you're thinking, oh, wow, this could be Fabala 5 and Curse in Barovia, they're not playing the full Curse of Strahd with from the actual module itself. I am adapting it. There are some homebrew elements I'm bringing into it. There have been elements of a Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft that I want to bring into this as well, which if you haven't checked out yet, it is a plethora of Gothic horror as well as just horror knowledge. I know, Danny, I told you, like, this is your bread and butter of a module book. Please check it out. And I feel like I had a little bit of fun diving into it. But I am keeping it new for you guys, so that at some point, if we were to say, hey, let's try to play this from scratch with new characters at the very beginning, be very different. And that's where, Ricky, you say, 40 different things can happen next week. And that is very, very true. It could
I had no idea that was a thing. I believe Mark also did not know by his similar reaction to me, like tarot cards and things just being like.
For the record, I want to see a tarot card of like Kano Wolf, with like this robotic wolf with like the laser eye that comes out, man. I want to see that.
I think, and Anthony, I think this has a lot to do with you and a lot to do with the other 3 of you guys. But I love how many times our party has come to almost full TKO. And by no, and I mean this is great. I feel like, one, it shows that Anthony's not holding back. He's not.
Oh, no.
He's not. I know there's probably some DMs who feel bad and they're gonna be like, whatever, or they try and avoid certain things. But for the fact that we've almost full party TKO'd on so many different occasions, but somehow we've still all managed, even when like on those days that like maybe Danny can't play or Tony can't play, and we're down that quintessential person who totally for that fight, we're like, holy cow, we really could have used blank.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's not just you.
No, I know.
No.
But it just really goes to show how well we all mesh together for the fact that we have not been completely annihilated. And that like there's just, maybe the dice are rolling in our favor that day or whatever, but we're so well balanced that it has not been a complete knockout. Whether it's the fact that Remus is immune to fire damage, and it just so happens that almost everybody got blitzed except Remus, who's like, and then it's like,
I should have died probably 2 or 3 times if we hadn't leveled up. Like straight up, I got a new ability at level 7 that helps with cutting damage from dex saving throws, and like it's just timing sometimes of things that work out, and like
but it's
you can't write this stuff.
But it's great, and that's why like with the 40 different things happening and wolves with laser eyes, like it's awesome.
It is. So that, everyone, we're gonna take a shift in this episode, and we're gonna jump into a I want to say shorter conversation, but we have a little bit more of a direct point to talk about, and this with Mark, because we highlighted it earlier, is that Mark is I want to say the newbie of the group, the newbie to D&D of all of us. I mean, you're not really new anymore to it though. Like, you're really not. And you took Azoth through one hell of a journey, and he's been through so many shifts and changes. And there are some DMs that are like, no, you're not changing mid character. And I'm not gonna lie. If Ricky, if you were just like, hey, you know what? I don't think Remus wants to be a rogue anymore. I want to make him be a fighter all the way. Oh, it's not gonna be that easy, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how I would be the same, because it'd be like, come on. I would work with it more, but I can't say it wouldn't be the same. But I understand coming into this game, like I fully understand when you come in and you're like, I really don't know what I'm doing. I think I made a person. I think I know how they're going to be. And then you play a couple sessions and you're like, whoa, that's not what I wanted to do with this. So can I change my character this way? And it's like, yeah, let's see if this is how he's going to develop. No, he's not. All right, we're going to turn him back. What has that been like as a new player to really like, you've taken some 180 turns?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I think the one thing up to this point that it hasn't been is I've never wanted to deviate so far away from Azoth as a druid, like going the sense of making him into a fighter or something else. It's always been, I feel, and I think this kind of harkens into what Danny's saying. If we're looking at it from a character perspective, Azoth's out in the real world for like the first time. If he's been a druid, he's been cooped up in these woods in Brian's spell. He doesn't know about anything. Maybe it's been one of those things where you know, my powers or abilities have almost been constrained in like a Faraday cage of the woods. They've never allowed me to reach my full potential because of the what ifs.
We haven't even seen his final form yet.
Right. So part of me thinks that this adaptation or these like little flavor changes of where I thought I might want to go with Azoth have been kind of organic and natural because there've never been really any crazy deviations from that. It was always like a blend or maybe a metamorphosis or like a evolution of that, or that's how I was looking at it. So it's felt natural in that sense. And I also think because we never fully jumped into a hard, all right, it's changed, this is what it's going to be. It was always a let's naturally kind of let this go. These things happen. Maybe you'll throw at me the things needed to make it happen. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, maybe it wasn't meant to be, or that's, you know, the way of saying like it's not going to work out that way. So yeah, as far as like a new player goes, I appreciate it because it's allowed me to essentially develop Azoth and really figure out maybe this is the way I was looking at it all along. I just didn't know because I hadn't done enough research yet as to I could play him that way. So yeah.
Well, he definitely has gone through a turnaround. And you got your feet wet and playing with him as a wizard for a little bit.
Yep.
We threw on more spells, and you were just like, "No, that's not my feeling."
Yeah, I didn't. The whole, I don't know. I guess the whole idea, I think, and again, this would be probably me just needing to do more research because I didn't research like the wizard aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like, the idea, like right now, I like the idea of just being, you know, I know the spell, I can cast it, I can do this, I can do this. Like the whole wizard thing with the writing it down and having to figure this out and get that, like that was just like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like
it's something to take on as a player because I mean, I do want to help out as a DM, but there are certain parts of like the part of being the wizard is that this is you're the scholar. You are the one that studies it.
If you were to say we're starting a new campaign, if you were to be like, hey Mark, do you want to play as a wizard? I'd probably flat out be like, no. That's just too, it's
a lot.
It's too smart for me. Like I don't want to, as much as I said earlier that this is like a job and we have to do work, that's a different type of work that I don't know that I can put in, like, and that it would be a disservice. Like,
well, wizard is a very different style of play too, because you're not going to gain and progress the same way as you would as a druid. The payoff is you get to be a wizard at the very end. You're looking at 9th level Wish, Meteor Storm, Power Word Kill,
right?
Like spells that are just like you will decimate, and the payoff is worth it to get there. But I mean, you have to want to be able to play that kind of a character. And it's not to say that none of you will want to play drastically different characters moving forward, but it's very interesting to see how Azoth was like. I always describe druids as kind of tree wizards, unless you're the circle of the moon, because that's really what it is. You have some ties to nature. You get to do a little bit of shape shifting, and then you have spell slots that are all nature based. But if you
Mhm.
do the circle of the moon, which is where you're like, I don't want to be a wizard. I don't want to be I don't want to be a circle of the swamp or the land. We're like, yeah, let's give it the moon. And you played it into a perfect role playing too. And you really capstoned on your B shapes. Like you own it. And I mean, at higher levels of druid, I mean, you start to do unlimited B shapes. You can cast through your B shape. You can turn into elementals. Like level, like when you get higher, druid level 20 druid is be very equally powerful as a level 20 wizard. It's just a different style of play. And I think Azoth more so definitely is a wizard, but it's very interesting to just kind of hear how you came in and you really took work. You learned and you worked with it. Now, before we get into where we're going to be moving forward with the campaign with you, I did want to ask, I want to make sure we do ask Remus and Howard specifically if they had to reshape and reclass themselves, because I did it with you and Tony last time. You had to reclass. What would you be reclassed as?
For Howard?
Howard.
That's tough. Knowing him? Oh man, that is tough.
You know what? Sit and think on it for a moment. We'll come back to you.
Come back to me. on
Ricky.
that one.
So are you saying like if like right now the character I have, or like if I were to recreate entirely?
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Well,
No, I don't know.
I think what did I say? I can't remember how we did it last time. Was it up to the point, Mark?
I honestly don't remember. I don't even remember what my answer was. But my head's in other places right now, so
That's okay. Let's say, I guess right now, if you were to reclass them, where would you see them also reclassing? So if they were going to scrapping a rogue, scrapping a warlock, where are you fleshing forward?
It's tough. I could see maybe like an Eldritch Knight, like a fighter, like yet slight cantrip style
Quartercaster.
Quartercast. Yeah, I've never like Mark. You're not alone. I've very like wizards way too much for me. Warlock was my first character ever, and I thought that was perfect because it's just like a taste of spell casting, and like it doesn't make you like you focus more on your cantrips, and like you don't have to worry about too many spell slots that are all the same level. And it's just so it's hard knowing that many spells and wanting to like play a good job. So like for me, rogue, it's what your things are, your abilities. So yeah, I would say fighter because it's a little more basic, but you can still flavor in. It's such a vast class. Like you can be crazy different things. You can't be a gunslinger though in Barovia. That'd be weird.
That'd be interesting in Barovia.
Unless the gun shoots out like wooden stakes or crosses.
Oh,
that'd be pretty cool.
I'll have
that would be just some. Yeah, I was just thinking like some Vanoss.
Yeah.
What if you had a gunslinger Eldritch Knight, and that's where it was. He's casting through the guns, through his shots. That's a character build idea. Danny, what's with if we're refleshing Howard?
Wow. All right, so he would probably take either some kind of mix of sorcerer and paladin.
Really?
Yeah, and probably go that route with like a mix between them two. I think it's the paladin has like a Oathbreaker, I want to say. Subclass that he'd probably take. Might go like soul sorcerer maybe on that part too. So it's kind of like a little bit of like almost like a utility kind of a character. And probably go that route, I guess.
Interesting. Sorcerers are cool. Get the sorcery points, can really play with the meta magic. And if I'm not mistaken, divine soul sorcerer, you also get some healing aspects as well.
You get some healing aspects as well too, yeah. Plus, like if you're mixing that in with a paladin, that could kind of like could kind of stack up a little bit. But yeah,
I could see a Oathbreaker of the Yellow King be very interesting to work with.
that may or may not have been a current thought that I had for Howard.
We could
Possible route.
we could definitely talk. We definitely
Who
could
knows?
talk about this,
Yeah.
Danny. We could definitely
I
talk about
know.
this.
I do know for sure though, like I do want him to at least get up to level 9 Warlock, because there's a certain feat that I get with my tome, with my Book of Shadows, that I can use with all the other party members, but has to be level 9. So I'm like,
And here's a big decision: does Howard want to get to level 9
that's
as a
the
warlock?
thing. That's the thing. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, and like, kind of goes back to what Mark was saying, being open, like letting your character grow.
Mhm.
As he's leveled up, like a lot of the things that normally I would be like, oh yeah, let's do this because he's a warlock. Let's get all eldritchy. Let's all get all like horror aspect and madness and insanity. Has kind of changed into what Howard has been through and learning ways to adapt to that. So, for instance, there was a period where we were falling all the time, and Howard happened to learn fly because he got tired of falling. Like, that was a character choice for him to be like, okay, well, let's figure out how to stop this for like his own benefit and everything. Whereas, like, from a game point, like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to pick up a fly spell, but it would make sense for Howard because he was falling all the time. He was tired of it. So
Very natural and organic leveling. But
Mhm.
interesting character ideas.
I have a question because I don't
Yes.
know much about the class. Can you describe a blood hunter to me?
Yeah.
Because I think that could be a cool class for Remus if it is fit right.
All right, so they're Blood Hunter. I have never played much of the Witcher video games, but the best way that they've been described is that it's Matt Mercer's class, and it's inspired through like The Witcher, where you are hunting the creature, and you are becoming and taking on traits of that creature to best assist you to hunt it. Think Van Helsing becoming the werewolf to help, becoming part werewolf to help him fight other werewolves and to kill Dracula. So with the Blood Hunter, there is the lycanthrope. I think it's circles is what you would take as their subclasses. And there is order. That's what it is. Order. So there's the lycanthrope. So basically, as you progress in this, you take on. It's a mix of turning into and becoming and being able to turn into like a werewolf or whatever animal that you're a part of, as well as you get warlock-like blood magic traits. So you can infuse and kind of like cause your swords to, like, if you're melee weapons, you can cause them to like become magical damage, but you take like some personal hit point damage to activate that magic and those spells. You can cause basically like almost like eldritch invocations and properties and conditions to affect your opponent, but it comes at a cost where you have to take a little bit of you have to roll a die and see if you lose any hit points from it. But as you progress, you become more, you take on those traits. Like the one order is that you can become a lycanthrope. There's one where you can take on the path of being a almost like a ghost or like a specter, where you can like pass through walls and you can like, you become transparent like a ghost and you become ethereal. There is one where it's more of like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where you take potions and literally like change and mutate your own body. And at certain levels, once you take a certain path, this is like an adaptation that you can't go back from. Like, you chose this choice, you take this detriment of an effect. And then there's also the
Profane Soul.
There it is, the Profane Soul. Which one is that specifically? What is?
According to D&D Beyond, it Hemocrafts, Ancient and Cruel Fiends and Terrors of the World. Its order is trust in the resilience and delved in the same corrupting arcane knowledge, making pacts with lesser evils to better combat the greater. So it looks like it's almost kind of looks like a warlock almost. The Archfey, Celestial Fiend, Old One, Hexblade, Undying.
Yes.
Cast magic.
Would you say it's similar to Ghost Rider?
Seems like it.
That one is very similar to a Ghost Rider. I could see that. You know, depending on who you take taking your pact with, kind of like the Fiend. You know, you gain some spells from them, and then you also kind of gain some additional abilities and further spells moving forward. So the Profane Soul is more of the spell caster of the Blood Hunters, but they're pretty cool with their class features. What they do get is you get the Blood Maledicts. You gain the ability to channel and sometimes sacrifice part of your vital essence to curse and manipulate creatures through Hemocraft. So it's very blood magic. And then it's also a mix of a fighter. So you're you gain a fighting style, as well as you gain abilities to imbue your weapons with
that blood
different
magic.
types of with blood magic, but damage. So at earlier levels, you gain either fire damage, cold damage, or lightning damage. At higher levels, you can gain necrotic, psychic, and thunder damage. And I mean, if you can fight through and you can survive to higher levels, there is some blood maledicts and blood curses that are very, very hurtful. You know, causing a lot of necrotic damage and just sucking away your opponent's health from it. Very interesting. I recommend you check it out.
It's very much.
So that might be another Remus one.
Yeah, it's very much of like a high risk, high reward style of play. So if you like taking like certain risks and gambles and stuff like that, that's good.
It'd essentially be the wizard as you're playing. If you're a wizard and you're playing the high risk, high reward to be able to get to those higher levels with those higher spell slots, this would be the high risk, high reward fighter or martial class.
Got it.
To be played with. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Now, Mark, before we finally wrap up, I want to touch on you have a new character in the developments.
Yeah.
So what has it been like? Like we've made some one shots and some one-off characters, but you brought this up to our attention last week to kind of be like, hey, I have a new character in the works. How do you feel about him? And we're all very open and we're like very interested to see how they're going to, when they come in. But what has it been like to make another new character that is an actual player character that you're really going to play as, not some Podsville or having some fun with them? What has it been like to kind of be like, I'm making a new character. Now you know where you were, and you've actually been able to see different styles of play, from Danny being being the warlock, with Ricky being more of martial, and even Finks being a healer.
Yeah. So I'll try and stay on track about this as much as I can. I tend to go off on tangents, so I apologize in advance for that. I still am, much like Danny had mentioned that Howard is, he plays Howard as, if you were to play like Skyrim, almost like an archer. You know, he likes to hold back and go from afar. Or if, you know, Modern Warfare, you're a sniper. I've kind of always liked those play styles as well. If I play like GTA, I kind of like to hide off in the hills and snipe people. Or, you know, I always seem to gravitate towards like a bow and arrow in any type of fantasy realm setting. I don't know what it is about it. I've just never been a fan of beat 'em up brawler Hulk style action. You know, it comes to superheroes, Batman is like my all-time favorite superhero, and he's kind of all into technology, and he still does things a lot of times from afar, or as non-lethal as he can be. You know, he still gets, you know, he'll punch and break some legs and stuff like that, but for the most part, you know, off in the shadows, sulking and things like that. So knowing this, I would say I still have a pretty passive / defensive style of role playing when I role play. And that's okay. I like that. When I do improv at Comedy Sports, if you ever come watch once the shows open back up, and if I start playing again, you'll notice that there's 4 of us on the stage, and it's always the polite thing to share the stage with your peers and never to let one person like take over the show. And I really take that to heart. And I will tend to be in the background a lot. We have a window that we can use. I kind of like to be in the window, like kind of behind the scenes, still doing whatever little quip or thing that I have to do that's appropriate at the time. But I take advantage of a lot of like behind the scenes type of things. It's just something I'm really comfortable with.
Yeah.
I can make an impact or still be seen, even though I'm not like front and center. So knowing that background, about a month ago, we had to put my dog down, and he was like 15, and it was fine. You know, I'm not like devastated or heartbroken. He was old. He was, you know, having accidents and everything like that. But
Mhm.
his name when we got him from my old boss he was a purebred beagle. His name was Trevor's Mad Max. So I thought it would be fun to the idea, like we've always talked in before, like we've talked about like uh how can you build this character in D&D? When we played Podsville, I tried to build King from Tekken. So he was like a tabaxi wrestler. You know, we tried to, you know, make you know, we've done these like character builds of these non-D&D characters in a D&D setting. So knowing that, I've been thinking about it over the past month or so. And again, I'm about research. I like to kind of like get into things, and I started with the name. So I had Mad Max. And I was like, all right, Trevor's Mad Max. Okay, so we'll go with Mad Max for a name. I want to incorporate that somehow into this character. I think it would be a fun way to kind of like honor him, even with my son who's kind of watching. Maybe he would pick up on it and, you know, kind of like click in for him because it was like, you know, his dog. Um, so then I started thinking, okay, a mad character. And I know there's a lot of political correctness or sensitivities towards mental health, disabilities, and so on and so forth. And even in a fantasy setting, it's still respectful to be respectful of that. And I wasn't trying to do any kind of like insensitive to anything like that. So, you know, I was starting to think about these like mad characters, and you have like Willy Wonka, you have like
Mhm.
the Mad Hatter from I mean, there's Alice in Wonderland, but I was more thinking like Batman, Jarvis the Mad Hatter. Um, in the Batman Arkham games, there's this really fun sequence with Jarvis Tetch, who brings you in and lures you through like it's a really fun like mind, you know, kind of
Psychological game.
yeah. So then I was like, okay, let's go that route. And we've always talked about building these characters and things like that. So I started thinking about what characters are mad that I can play off of without having to be like insane, or I don't want to go the like murder hobo, you know, route or anything like that. I want it to be like
And I appreciate that no one in the party is a murder hobo.
I want it to be like good. I don't
Yes.
want to be off the rails. I don't want to derail anything. Again, I kind of wanted to like find this passive thing. So I started looking to things that I was really familiar with and like I enjoy. And Alice in Wonderland, I've kind of always had a thing for it, and like Willy Wonka as well. Like there's these weird, like stupidly they're kid stories, but they're not. Like, you know what I mean? They're darker than they really
Oh yeah.
are. And I mean, basically what it eventually led me down towards is what kind of a character, especially even in Barovia, could a character like the Cheshire Cat be? He's not the focus of Alice in Wonderland, but he still plays an important part in, weirdly enough, guiding Alice kind of like as a conscious as to where she needs to go by being indirect, indecisive, and kind of just this kind of like, you don't know where you're going, then maybe you're going the right way. Like those
There's
weird kind of like quotes and quips that he has.
there's some madness to him still. And I like where you're going with this.
So knowing that he's a cat, I started looking into like different things as to how this could play out. And what I settled on, and I ended up like building him and whatever. Because I've got in my mind right now, and this is where I'm probably not going to go into too many details because this is where the fun is going to be. I know in my mind how I want to play as him. But essentially, what we're going with now is however we take Azoth out of the playing field and put him on the back burner. Because he's been fun, but again, I think that was more or less like, you know, training wheels. Now the training wheels have come off. And I think there's more to be done with. I kind of like where he is, and that's like that comfort food you can go back to. You know, you don't want to try something new, so he'll be there because I don't want to kill him off completely. He'll be there, but what we're basically dealing with is a Tabaxi warlock with the Fey Patron. And based on the abilities and the feats and the spells that I've picked for him, like I know as a warlock, Howard, or Danny, you play as Howard, the Eldritch Blast. And when Titus played the one day, he played as a warlock. I was like, the Eldritch Blast thing is fun. You can throw these like fireballs, and like you guys are ripping all kinds of this damage and stuff.
It is a staple, man. I love it.
Mhm.
I didn't pick it because the Cheshire Cat wouldn't be throwing fireballs. I feel like he's going to be a good addition to the party, where he's going to be able, I think he's going to be able to do what I wanted Azoth to do while we were in the Desert Temple. With that whole like trying to bargain with people and make deals and be deceitful and go that kind of route to kind of change the game in our favor. Like Azoth pulled a little bit of that at the gates with the guards. But I want it to be more of that. And I think that's more or less the route that I kind of would like to go. Still being able to alter the course enough where like I set him up and you guys knock him down, basically. And I think that's, I don't know. Yeah.
I think it will be a great addition to the group, and I think it'll be very interesting for us all to see how he's going to work too, and especially because you're going to go off of a very charisma-based character. The party is going to be very charisma heavy. I just pulled up. I know Howard is, and I realize, Ricky, your charisma is it's not bad. Yeah, fairly decent charisma.
It was, I believe it was because I started out and I was like, all right, I'm a rogue, but I have to like fit into these places, and like Remus's concept is like long con, like so he has to submerge himself into scenarios. So I've got some charisma that we don't really use, but I don't need to.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but with it all comes out, it's very interesting to see how you all will play off of each other, because I mean, at least from what I feel like I've seen, you don't always have, there's always like one or two, maybe one face for the party and maybe two. That's how I felt. It was kind of Howard became one of the faces, and you took over as kind of a leadership in the, like, I'm the sword wielder. That's what we're doing too with him. So I'm very curious to see how Max is going to be included with this, and a nice departure from Azoth could be good.
Yeah,
I don't see it as a negative trait, and we don't have to kill him off. And who knows what he'll do. Barovia is very easy to work with, and the mists come and go.
right.
But very interesting.
So that's, it's again, a lot of it was, and I, if you had said no a couple weeks ago when I was talking to you about it, that would have been fine. I wouldn't have been upset or sad playing as Azoth. I still have fun with him.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just think our story has changed so much as it is, with the different plane shifting and realms and things like that. And I think had we stayed in Brindspell, or not even Brindspell, Brindspell was just the city. Fabala. Had we stayed in Fabala, I think that would have been great for Azoth. But even just seeing the way that it was, I mean, I know the desert technically was part of Fabala, but it didn't feel like it. Yeah, I don't know. I just, it's one of those things, like it's probably time to take off the training wheels and really like play.
You're coming in, you're bringing in a new character into a new land that is unforgiving.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the fact that you're coming in at level 1, 2, that's just good for you. I'm messing with you, man.
I mean,
I
I
was about to say,
have,
like,
Oh,
Ricky,
God,
you
no.
can really
I
do
have
it
the
to
sheet
him?
open.
No. I was waiting for a reaction, and man, like, wow, oh,
Damn.
wow.
but see, that's the thing though. If you had said like he's coming in at level 1, I'd be like, all right, change him to level 1. We'll make it work.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Fight.
I'm not gonna do that. This is not the place to have you start at level 1, especially with a new character with the party that is all at higher levels. That would not be. He wouldn't be around for long. Let's say he'd probably make it half of an encounter before taking a loose fireball. That wasn't dodged properly.
Right.
But I think Barovia and the party will do great with him. And you guys are all becoming a mix of odd races. It went from a very standard human, half orc, tiefling to we're bringing in goblins. We're getting rid of the elf. We're bringing in tabaxi. You guys are a nice little. You change it up and you keep it different. That's what I do like. But guys, it's been a great conversation, great discussion, good topic. Went a little bit over than what I was thinking we'd do originally. So, hey, everyone got a nice little hour and a half chunk of some Roll for Wisdom. Thank you so much, everyone that has been tuning in. I forgot to push it earlier. It's one of our t-shirts. You can catch it at our Teespring. The link is in the description below. As on the Facebook and the YouTube, go on over to our Linktree page, hit it. It is linked over to our Teespring, as well as if you're catching this on a replay via YouTube. The link is in the description, as well as if you're listening to this and you didn't get to watch it, you want to see what t-shirt I'm talking about, head on over, click that Linktree link in the description and pick up a t-shirt, support the stream, and make sure that you do hit those subscribe, like, follow on our social media, podcasters_tabletop gaming, as well as over at our Twitch, podcasters_. I've been one of your hosts, Anthony Bullen. I've joined here with my players. Thank you so much, everyone, for Danny Chavez, Mark Warner, Ricky Coates. Thank you guys so much. It feels weird not letting you all say goodbye. So
Keep,
I
it's a chicken.
Keep
oh,
rolling.
let's check. Wait,
It glows in the dark.
I can't even roll to that. I'm just.
I rolled a 9 on my D6.